All right, everybody. For today's critical thought, we're going to be going over the game design Q&A questions that were submitted last month. I've been trying to get questions relating to game design or just industry topics. And if you guys have any ones you'd like to submit, let me know in the comments below. But we have two sets to go over today, and we're going to start with Mike. Mike asked, what was the intended value of the Amiibo line and Toys to Life, and can developers learn anything from it going forward? But the Amiibo line, and by extension Toys to Life, has definitely waned, I think, in its popularity in recent years, with both Disney Infinity and the LEGO Dimensions franchise is now kaput. And right now, with not a lot of news from Skylanders, the Amiibo line is still reasonably going strong. And the purpose of the Amiibos has been twofold. The first has been to provide a highly collectible object for Nintendo fans to go after. Now, if you look over here, this is what we have right now of course, the Amiibos. But, we'll put him like right there perfectly for the shot. What we used to get were these. This is the Nintendo Wario Beanie Baby. And yes, I have other Nintendo ones around as well. We'll leave him right there. But it's a pretty big difference between the two in terms of quality and what they offer. And that's one of the bigger points. As we've said before, Nintendo and collectibles really didn't go hand in hand. You have a lot of third-party knockoffs out there, but the Amiibos was the first time we got some high-quality detail with the characters, and of course, the functionality that we'll talk about next. When it came to the Amiibo line, Nintendo's, what I thought was going to be a big weakness for them, has turned out to be a strength. And that's the fact that in terms of their functionality, there is no one game that ties them all together. Not in the same way as we saw with Infinity, Dimensions, and Skylanders. With the Amiibos, they basically are used to unlock additional content for different games. The original function with Smash Brothers was you could download a character into like the little RF chip that's inside here, and you could have like characters play against each other. They would learn things, stuff like that. I'm going to adjust the camera just slightly there. There we go. And with the future ones, it adds like additional items or costumes or things along that nature. Nothing game-changing, not in the same way as the Skylanders and the other series were, just enough to add a little bit more value. So you're not just spending $12.99 or even more for some of the higher quality ones for just the figure. You're going to get this additional functionality. Now, with that said, though, the problem that I felt was that it's kind of stuck in the middle there. The figurines are nice, but they don't offer anywhere near the same level of functionality that we saw with Skylanders. But without having that game, it's hard to tell just where the value lies within them. I would have loved to have seen them go for something like you spend for the Amiibo, and this unlocks DLC that you would normally have to buy money or spend money on. That way you're kind of getting double the value. Now, from what developers can take from the Amiibo line, first off, if you're going to commit to something like this, you either need a strong brand or you need a strong game to go with it. With the Skylanders series originally, as famously what we said, Paul Ritchie from Toys for Bob, they chose the Spyro brand because nobody was using it anymore, and they were free to do with it what they wanted. But with the later games, again, Disney Infinity and so on, you have that strong brand attached. It's also very telling that the Infinity line with Star Wars, Marvel, and it's even stuff like Gravity Falls and Pixar still failed to capture people. And that's the other side. There has to be a game that goes with these. But it's very hard to do a game built around figurines or crazy characters like this. And the reason is the game design is stretched very thin because they're supposed to fit all these characters in there. And with the Infinity line in particular, you had so many different characters, but their actual gameplay potential was quite limited. Everyone basically had like 2 or 3 attacks, and that was it. The same goes for the Skylanders brand. But what they did to break things up was distinguish the characters by elements and other factors like that. So if I wanted to collect all the water, fire, shadow, and so on characters, I could do that for the collectible aspect. But to beat the game, I just really needed one character of each element. And then, of course, we could get more value with the additional characters. Now, can the new developer go with the Toys of Life genre now? And that's a very big question. I don't think it's going to be very hard. Because again, you're really going to have to commit fully both towards a major game and towards the collectible side. And there is a lot that can go into these figurines here. Also, as you can tell, I'm still getting used to the smartphone. I'm trying to make sure I'm staring just right at it. But with that said, hopefully I can get myself looking just right. I think the camera is over there. There we go. But with that said, Amiibos and by extension Toys of Life can be a very powerful seller when it works. And it's going to be very interesting to see what Nintendo will do going forward in terms of keeping these guys relevant. We're still seeing a few Amiibos here and there, but we're not seeing a true game attached to it. Again, stuff like costumes or like a Spona or a Pona, whatever its name was in Breath of the Wild, but this is not game changing. It's not adding in new game systems. And the developer who's going to try and make use of this is going to be really careful because, as we know, collectibles and having a stock of them don't normally go hand in hand. And many of the first generation Amiibos aren't available anymore. So you have to be really careful. You don't want to say base your entire game on characters like the Wii Fit trainer, what was his name? Pit from Kid Icarus, and some of the other rare ones. Because that can also come back to bite you. Now, with that said, let's get to the second set of questions. And that was from David. He asked, if I were to develop a game design course, how would I go about doing that? And this was a question that was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Originally, when I was thinking this up, I was just throwing out random terms, abstraction, progression curves, achievements, and stuff like that. But it's actually very hard to come up with a set course what could be game design. Because game design is very multifaceted, and the term itself doesn't really describe what it is. It's the same way of saying, I'm an artist, or I'm a craftsman. As we know, there are multiple disciplines and subcategories to learn within that. And that can make it very hard to learn what it means to make video games. And even just to start at the entry level. Because like I said, I could see this being drilled down dramatically with, a course for programming, first-person shooters, you name it, pick a genre. But if I were to start with like Intro to Game Design 101, the first thing that I would do, I'm going to adjust this ever so slightly just to see if we can get things just right. Hopefully that works. But what I would do would be to start off with really just explaining how game design differs from anything else, as in programming, aesthetics, and stuff like that. We will go into probably a discussion about what it is to make a game in terms of thinking about it from thought to prototype to iteration to full release. I would probably have discussions about elements of UI design, what makes a game playable, and even getting into discussions as to how do you successfully take this idea and go further with it. How do you know when a game works in your hands? And obviously we would be play testing games in terms of what they did right. So probably we would see characters like this in an Intro to Game Design course. But more importantly, we would probably spend a lot of time on the philosophy of games. What makes them work, what makes them doesn't work, or what makes them don't work in the grand scheme of things. Because, again, it's very hard to think about video games at this analytical or academic level. Again, when we talk about stuff like programming and aesthetics, they all have hard skills associated with them. If a program doesn't work, well, it's easy to spot. the program's not working, there's error codes. If something doesn't look right from an artistic standpoint, like if you're trying to make something look realistic and it looks all oblong and abstract, that's easy. But again, what makes a video game work? What makes it fail in the eyes of the consumer? And again, we could even go further with discussing things like marketing and PR, but I think that would be beyond in terms of an intro level course. I would definitely talk about how you motivate someone to keep playing a game, the importance of what a tutorial is, and I would say maybe go as far as to coming up with a prototype. Being able to figure out, I'm going to build my core gameplay loop. Here's, the encapsulation of my game idea. Because if you can't come up with that, if you can't drill down your great idea into 5 to 10 minutes of solid gameplay, then you really don't have a game. And again, if we wanted to go further, I'm sure we could talk about a middle and advanced courses on game design. But I think that's going to do it for this game design Q&A section. So thank you so much for those questions. And again, if you'd like to submit more to me in the future, please let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, check back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Until our next video, have a good night. Before we get to the credits, just want to give a quick shout out to the fans and supporters over on patreon.com/gwbicer. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check back around 10 Eastern for regular streaming. If you'd like to suggest games for me to cover or topics to talk about, let me know in the comments below. For a collection of my writings as well as weekly podcasts on design, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the Game Wisdom Patreon, you can find us on there on patreon.com/gwbicer. $1 will get you into our private Discord channel where we talk game topics and more. $5 will get you voting privileges for any major event, including the Saturday Night Grab Bag, Patreon-funded goals, and more. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoy more videos here on the Game Wisdom YouTube channel.